I don't know what's happening here.
See me in the chat.
No, I don't.
Okay, I just hit you with Cary. Go.
Okay. Let's go, Renee.
From Los Angeles, Rethinking Heroes with Cary Harrison.
I've spent a decade taking a bite out of conspiracy theories, unraveling urban legends, and grappling with worldwide top secret issues.
I've even racked up some of their awards.
Wow, I mean, first of all, what a question.
Journalism is about telling the truth, all while ferreting out the bottom line.
I'm a Harrison Hellraiser.
With me, Cary Harrison, as your guide.
Rethinking Heroes with Cary Harrison.
It is Rethinking Heroes, rethinkingheroes.com. Cary Harrison with you, and welcome to this special edition of Rethinking Heroes. You can catch the live video stream at rethinkingheroes.com. Just hit any of the streaming links. It'll take you right there so you can watch at the end of your drive. Instead of having to turn off your radio, which we never want you to do, you can just continue on your phone. Anything with a chip and a signal. Well, George Orwell predicted it, right? Aldous Huxley wrote about it, and the founding fathers never truly envisioned it. Yet a demagogue's election has truly put what you know as America in legitimate crosshairs. Charismatic rhetoric. Hold on a second. Let me just see. Joe, okay, thank you. America, charismatic. See, I can't even speak. I'm still constipated and hungover from the election. And I didn't have anything to drink. Charismatic rhetoric masks divisive intentions, doesn't it? It exploits fears and prejudice. Institutions are undermined and the rule of law is eroded. Free speech suffers and moderation gives way to extremism. History warns us. Authoritarianism looms. International alliances crumble and global stability falters. Yep. Minutes after the election, the German government collapsed. The strongest and most stable government in Europe, gone, crumbling. We're going to get into that. But I want you to know that hope remains. Democratic ideals endure through courageous dissent, equality, advocacy, and truth pursuit. And the pursuit of those, we will pursue those. We're going to be opening up the phone lines to take your calls and dive into a topic that couldn't be more pressing. The rise of the demagogue, this type of leader, often using rhetoric filled with misinformation and inflammatory language, aiming to divide and control. They rise to power by playing on fears and offering easy answers to complicated issues. Historically, these strategies have been a precursor to authoritarian rule, where dissent is crushed and power concentrated. We've already been told what will happen. The consequences for democracy are severe. Institutions falter, and the very foundation of the rule of law is compromised. Moments following the recent election, like I said, the government of Germany fell, collapsed, broke apart as the right wing knew the U.S. now had its back. Unthinkable, given many of our grandparents fought fascists and Nazis and even died, that this may never happen again. Our essential freedoms like free speech are now at risk of being suppressed. The focus on personal power threatens the common good. And we've seen this dangerous pattern before, haven't we? Charismatic figures having exploiting economic distress, even though there really isn't that much. Social turmoil and national apprehension to their advantage. These echoes from the past serve as warnings for the present and the future. But let's not lose hope. Within these dark clouds, there is the ever-present spirit of our democratic values, the bravery of those who speak out, and the unyielding will of those who fight for equality, justice, and truth. The stakes couldn't be higher. Will we fall for deceptive promises, or are we going to stand firm in defending the tenets of equality and justice and liberty? The decision is ours. And this is what we're going to discuss today when we open up the phone shortly. But first, it couldn't be more timely to hear from a U.S. war veteran who oversaw 126 combat missions. His message at the moment is critical. I want you to meet Austin Ringelstein, a warrior who now fights for peace when he has himself seen the worst that mankind can muster. Austin's naval journey saw him on minesweeper ships in the Persian Gulf, leading a platoon in Guam and later commanding a bomb squad company in Iraq. Upon returning, Austin developed a war-related chronic autoimmune condition, and he's here today to remind us about resilience and forward movement. In Ojai, California, Austin Ringelstein, we welcome you to Rethinking Heroes.
Yeah, thank you, Cary. It's really an honor and a pleasure to be here. I'm so grateful.
Well, we're glad you're here too. When you and I spoke a couple of weeks ago, what had just happened hadn't happened yet. So we were going to sort of talk about something else. We're still going to talk about that something else. But now it has a patina of reality, that a surreality for so many. The Trump administration likely to unleash Project 2025, which is going to dismantle most of the guardrails our civilization has known for the past 300 plus years. My ancestors having signed the Declaration of Independence, having framed the Constitution, obviously doing backflips in their dusty little graves. And it will be done to protect people from the horrors of good medicine and a decent social safety net. Some idiot excuse like that will sound plausible. Cruelty is going to be sold as elegance and patriotism. But this is going to clearly affect the world's most sophisticated military, ours, the one that you served, plus our allies, including all of Western Europe. As a veteran for peace, which is what you are, how do you think this might impact the many millions in our military?
Yeah, I think that you could argue that this, we could have seen this coming a long time ago, given the seeds that were planted by the neocons in the days when I served. However, the mask is off, and there's where there used to be conduct and following to some degree the laws of armed conflict and the rules of war. It seems like, especially in places like Palestine, there's not even any kind of adherence to any of the laws and the moral codes that we were taught. And I think that stemmed largely from some of the practices that were being carried out, far back in previous wars that laid the groundwork for this time period that we're in. And it really is time to wake up and see that there's a big moral erosion that's taken place in our society, which is then influencing the services and our government, of course.
We're talking to Austin Ringelstein. He's a veteran for peace, and it's important to hear what veterans see because we all maybe make assumptions of what a veteran is and what things mean to them, but many of them stand up after having seen things and develop a different belief system or evolve a new belief system. Maybe Austin Ringelstein, you could elaborate on the connections between militarism, imperialism, capitalism, and dehumanization that you've uncovered in your personal journey.
Yeah, how much time do you have? Wow, that's great. I think
we'll go to a break if it gets too long.
Yeah, well, I think that Martin Luther King really was one of the people who really transformed and illuminated that topic, seeing the connection between militarism, racism, poverty, imperialism. And, for a while, I was drinking the Kool-Aid of the propaganda, that basically told me that serving my country would mean, joining the military, doing something greater than myself, getting to go overseas and basically, spread the gospel of the United States of America. And I really do think that, I want to give a shout out to other veterans and service members and people who are in right now. We usually join for very benign, for good reasons. And I think that sometimes people forget that, veterans really do want to do good things in the world. And it's really the mass manipulation and propaganda that sort of changes the playing field. The reality of why we served and then the reasons why, especially the corporate powers use us as pawns are pretty far apart. So go ahead.
I was just going to say you suffered a debilitating chronic syndrome after returning autoimmune syndrome. And, you know, that's enough for many people to throw their hands up in the air, just as we're hearing a lot of people after this recent election. They're just going to throw their hands up in the air, go in denial, and it'll just go away because you wish it to. But you're a man of resilience. What do you think was the triggering event that helped you regain your footing and move forward?
Yeah, going to Iraq was definitely a monumental time in my life. And it really sort of was this moment where my friend kind of put it, he put it in really good, simple terms. It created enlightened suffering because it woke me up to the reality of what was really going on. So, you know, I joined the military before 9/11, thinking, you know, I was going to do peacekeeping missions. I actually wanted to go into the Coast Guard and ended up somehow finding my way to the United States Naval Academy in Annapolis. And it really was a time of prosperity in many ways. Not for everybody, of course, as we know. And the U.S. has been perpetually at war. However, at that time under the Clinton administration, we weren't in a major war like we have been for the last about 25 years. After 9/11, things definitely changed. It went from where I thought I was going to be actually doing salvage diving on a U.S. Navy salvage ship to know you're going to be going to Iraq. And I joined an explosive ordnance disposal group, graduated from EOD school in 2007, went to Iraq with a platoon of 8 other sailors out of Guam. And then we became a company of 20 soldiers, sailors, airmen, and Marines. And it was such a stressful time, such a difficult time to be over there. It's really, in many ways, a dehumanizing experience to not see loved ones. You know, your daily grind in the 120-degree heat, and seeing a lot of suffering around you can really take a toll on you. And it was during my time after that combat tour where I had this moment. I was actually in the desert in China Lake, California, doing some training, and I was supposed to be leading some folks in doing a shooting exercise, and I just couldn't shoot anymore. I couldn't pick up a gun, and I was reading a book called Bury My Heart at Wounded Knee by D. Brown, and I started unpeeling the layers of what really went on with the treatment of indigenous people here, and that's really what broke me. It gave me a whole new lease on life. And then the pain of the injuries from this autoimmune condition was really a shedding of skin that made me feel like, gosh, I'm in so much pain. This is so difficult. I have nothing to lose now. And you start seeing the world for what it is and yourself for who you are.
Cary Harrison with you. This is Rethinking Heroes, rethinkingheroes.com, where we're also live streaming video. You can go to rethinkingheroes.com and clink. Hogan's Heroes. Click on any of the video links. We're talking to Austin Ringelstein, veteran for peace, when he was himself his naval journey saw him on minesweeper ships in the Persian Gulf, leading a platoon in Guam, later commanding a bomb squad company in Iraq and overseeing 126 combat missions, dealing with a war-related chronic autoimmune condition. He's here today to teach us about resilience, given what people feel like they're facing, about 200 million, that is, teaching resilience, which in this moment seems to many like impossible times. Austin, as we continue to talk, and we will be opening the phones shortly in the next number of minutes, open phones, so people can actually talk about their recent experience. You've got an event coming up where you guys are into action, you and many, many other Veterans for Peace.
That's right. And just connecting with what I was saying previously, the pain and suffering, that I feel as a veteran for having served under this, really the military industrial complex is what's dominating the situation in the military and the war profiteering. Now, the suffering that I feel is just a drop in the ocean compared to what's happening with people in Palestine and other war-torn areas of the world, where we're literally dropping U.S. bombs, oftentimes 2,000-pound bombs, which my platoon and I helped eradicate out in Iraq, and now they're being used to be dropped on families. So, the pain that I feel and the things that I feel are tiny compared to the suffering and starvation, poverty, illness that's going on in Gaza. And so I feel like it's a responsibility now to turn that pain, that transformation that I've gone through and many other veterans have gone through into action. And we learned in our schools and in our military training that there is something called the law of armed conflict, and the last thing you would want to do is hurt civilians. And since this war or genocide in Gaza is a targeted campaign against children and civilians, I think the least we can do is stand up, get together, have meetings, have fundraisers, build community and solidarity, not just for the people, but with the people. So
I'm going to ask you a question, and you're going to have to sort of invent an answer because you probably can't really know, just as I can't really know. But what's the end game for what's going on in Gaza? The end game for moving millions of people out of their homelands all the way to Lebanon? It's going to continue what's the end game?
I wish I knew what was going on in their minds. I think it's so dehumanizing that it's hard to understand. And when I say that, I mean the Israeli administration and the U.S. administration that's fueling it, and the other European administrations that's fueling it. However, I think it's pretty clear to see that this is not about simply freeing hostages or self-defense. When you're targeting schools, places of worship, you've killed nearly 200 journalists. And when you've killed, I think it's now up to 18,000 children and over 42,000 people, this is clearly a genocide. And, genocide's really a colonial term to describe a mass murder and actions that create mass suffering. So we need to really see it for what it is. This is not a war. The way I was taught war is, and of course war never really has rules. Civilians are always killed. However, this is unprecedented. This is to the point where it looks like the end game is probably a real estate deal, stealing land and dehumanizing people in the process.
Austin Ringelstein will end with you describing the impact that indigenous communities have had on you and your recovery journey, understanding that you've seen the worst that mankind can offer. You participated in that. You've had a complete switch of the way you view things. You got involved in Standing Rock. We all sort of vaguely remember that as a historical footnote, but now it's coming back to become a real reality as it happens probably everywhere once again. The indigenous people of America rebuilt, reshaped a lot of the way you look at yourself and others now.
Yeah, thank you for that. And I'll just make a quick pitch for our the event, how we can turn all this into action. So the event that I wanted to promote that helps put all of this theory into action is it's called Amplify Voices of Liberation, and it's Sunday, November 10th at the Libby Bowl in Ojai, California. And it's going to have music, art, culture, food, speakers, DJs, and vendors, including Astalon Underground and many other great artists. Sunday, November 10th, 12 to 8 p.m. at Libby Bowl. It'll help to support those families who are suffering from wars around the world, especially in Palestine. And I'll be there with a Veterans for Peace booth. But I'll say a few things about Indigenous people. You know, it's, as so many are saying, we're not freeing Palestine. Palestine is freeing us. And I was there in Standing Rock in 2016. I wouldn't be here without Indigenous people helping to keep me grounded. And I think that we can only look to Indigenous leadership if we want to find a way out of this mess. I'm all for land back and for standing up for people who are the original inhabitants of this continent, especially. I found my way back to myself by connecting with Indigenous people. There's so much more to say. Where do I go? Well, when I was in Palestine, when I was in Standing Rock, I remember being there with a bunch of other veterans. We were on a bus from Los Angeles, and a bunch of us from Veterans for Peace decided to join in the cause. And that was the first time I actually felt like I was serving my country, because we were uniting in solidarity with other people who were actually standing up for people and for the land. And really, it's all about, you know, reconnecting with the land in a profound way. And I'll say this: when we all sort of were gearing up and getting ready to march out to this area with other Indigenous people and veterans, to join in solidarity with them in a ceremony, there were Palestinian people all around me, because they showed up on the plains of North Dakota because they understood that what the Indigenous people in the United States were going through was the same cause of liberation that they were going through.
Okay, well, that makes complete sense, and we've certainly heard that in the past. You're going to be there on Sunday, so people can come and meet you. And you said that was from 12 to 8 in Ojai, California, which you won't be disappointed when you go to Ojai. There's nothing that isn't beautiful about it 24 hours a day. So it's a perfect setting for this kind of activism and gathering for people who want a little peace in the world. And if we do nothing, it is on its own. It's on auto control. So without resistance, the big boulder, Sisyphus's boulder, keeps rolling down and it won't stop. I want to thank you, Austin Ringelstein, for joining us today, Veteran for Peace. Your naval journey saw you on minesweeper ships in the Persian Gulf, leading a platoon in Guam, later commanding a bomb squad company in Iraq, overseeing 126 combat missions, dealing with a war-related chronic autoimmune condition. And you're here today teaching us about resilience in what seems to way too many like impossible times. Coming up, we're going to open up the phones for full and proper ventilation. Well over 200 million Americans feel politically hungover. Maybe they didn't even have a drink. They've been betrayed. They've been hoodwinked, clobbered by hocus pocus from both sides, admittedly. And the interest payment on this credit card of swindle could take a lifetime to pay down. And I want to hear your thoughts on what makes a leader a demagogue. What role the media plays in either challenging or enabling demagogues? And are there strategies that people and communities can use to resist such an unfolding future? Your calls are next at 818-985-5735. That's 818-985-KPFK, 818-985-KPFK, 818-985-5735.
Listen, well, it's still legal.
Rethinking Heroes with Cary Harrison. RethinkingHeroes.com.
We have taken over your radio. We are now in control. We can crank up your radio's volume, or we can turn it down so low that you can barely hear it. Then we can turn it back up. and mess around with the bass level. Or we can crank up the treble. We can blow out your left speaker.
Oh my God.
We can even make your radio sound like a broken CD. We are in total charge. We are in complete control. We are
Rethinking Heroes.
No need for TV to win all the Emmys and recognition.
It's public radio standing up for the rest of us.
Ask yourself, who is really the friend of women and the LGBT and LGBT community? I will tell you who the better friend is, and someday I believe that will be proven out bigly.
Listen, well, it's still legal.
Rethinking Heroes with Cary Harrison.
Our powerful Rolodex is a pantheon of progressive pundits and celebrities like Jane Fonda.
How do you stay active and not get too bummed and too depressed and stick your head in the sand and
because
go
I'm
away?
part of movements and I see people changing around me all the time.
Senator Sanders, it's no secret that millions of people love and adore you.
What is important right now is to focus on the enormous problems facing country.
Rob Reiner.
Nixon talks about having seen an episode of All in the Family.
What an honor.
I know, it's an honor to be trashed by Nixon.
Frangela.
Frangela are two Negro Nightly newscastresses or castrators, whatever. It's something, whatever it is.
Nice.
Rachel Maddow.
I'm not giving up. I'm not the world's most hopeful person, but what hope I have, I'm not giving up.
So maybe it's time for us to agitate a little bit more.
And the President of the United States of America.
Big league.
Big league.
Big league. Big league.
Big league.
Big league. Big league. Big.
I'm the place the guy.
Making radio great again. Hundreds of community and college stations now have a mothership for young voices and talent to carry the future.
Alonzo Hunt, 18 years old.
Even if they as individuals might or might not be good people, it really speaks to the ways that no matter what, they're really complicit in this system of white supremacist, heteronormative, patriarchal capitalism.
Our lines reach out to a rich tapestry of colorful and informed listeners.
You and federal government and media in general tend to assign cultural quality to anything that's deviant or beyond the bounds of nature.
Like you, sir. Green-toothed, cannibal-chewing, reactionary, neo-Nazi, jackbooted fascist.
That's what I mean, man.
Exactly. So I'm glad we agree on that point.
This pussy grabs back.
Rethinking Heroes.
I'd ask whether or not you think I will someday be on Mount Rushmore.
Oh my God.
Right-click, delete. Preventing truth decay.
Truth decay.
In a world of political constipation,
Rethinking Heroes with Cary Harrison.
is a good movement. Preventing truth decay.
Rethinking Heroes with Cary Harrison. RethinkingHeroes.com.
And it is Rethinking Heroes. Cary Harrison with you. We are live streaming video right now at RethinkingHeroes.com. Just simply click on any of the streaming links and you'll be able to see it. Well, you'll also see our beautiful station logo pop up over the many voices of the many, many tens of thousands listening. That's RethinkingHeroes.com. So what are those sharp, provocative qualities that transform a leader into a demagogue? How do those manipulative figures wield the power of language and harness raw emotion to twist the public will? I want you to reflect upon the tapestry of history where we've seen these demagogues rise and seize power, leaving indelible marks on demolished societies. Let's peer together into the economic and social landscapes, those fertile grounds where seeds of appetite find root in times of uncertainty and turmoil. We're going to take your calls now at 818-985-5735, 818-985-KPFK. That's 818-985-5735. And we're going to explore how the shadow of authoritarianism has crept into our midst. And the media standing at the crossroads. Did they rise to the occasion, challenge the liars and scalawags, or did they collaborate in paving their path? And what will be the armor that citizens and communities can forge against despots? What strategies will serve to resist, to repel? Well, these are all great questions. So we're going to take your calls in a second. Before we do that, I want to bring in the media here and just do a giant mea culpa. It is appalling. It is outrageous. It is disgusting, and it is unacceptable. Now, some of you might remember the name Walter Cronkite. If you're listening on a stream or watching, maybe you've heard of him as merely a historical reference. There used to be a time when we had 3 networks and basically everyone watched the same newscaster, which helped him be accountable, by the way. Yeah, if the whole country is watching, including the advertisers paying for the time, he has to be pretty squeaky clean. So he can't make up the news. He can't do Fox News. He can't do MSNBC. He has to do the news. But he also felt compelled to hold leaders' feet to the fire. If somebody lied, I mean, imagine somebody in the White House lying, and Walter Cronkite did. When Richard Nixon would lie, he would say that is a lie, or find a better way, maybe a Winston Churchill term like terminological inexactitude or some clever way to say that. But he would out that. And in the only debate we had between Kamala Harris and Donald Trump, you'll recall, said the following.
Eating the dogs, the people that came in, they're eating the cats, they're eating the pets.
Now, had David Muir been doing his job, he would have said, Mr. Trump, I'm sorry, but we have found that is untrue, which he did say that part. And then he said, and we fact checked it. Do you think that 150, 200 million people have any idea what we fact checked it mean? Do they even know what fact checking is? And you should say that is an untruth. We have 38 people that checked that out, found that it was a lie, made up, it's propaganda, and you just repeated knowingly, likely knowingly, repeated a lie in a public event during a presidential debate. And we're going to hold you accountable to that. And by the way, Kamala Harris, if you make something up or lie, we also are going to hold you accountable. This debate is not a forum for lying. Let's make that clear. That is the job of the media. Had this been the BBC, they would have done that. The British would have done that to their own British. The Germans would have done it to the Germans. The French do it to the French. Why do we not in America do that to Americans? Why? Because we are funded by corporate interests, and nobody wants to lose the sale of a car. It's that simple, and it is so foul and becomes so befouled that we have networks that do nothing but spew propaganda, whether it's MSNBC, News Nation, OANN, Fox News, it doesn't matter. People ask me all day, every day, where do I find news? And you know what? There's no goddamn answer. Where do you send people? Well, you're going to have to go abroad. You're going to have to go like 4,000 miles away. Wait, what? I'm going to have to go to England to find out what's going on in the U.S.? Yeah, I'm afraid you will. Or you're going to have to go to Germany, where the government just collapsed, and you're going to have to go to Deutsche Welle and get their news in Germany, because they actually pay reporters to be on Capitol Hill. Yes, we fired all of them, every one of them. We don't have bureaus anymore, anywhere. Why? Because it's not profitable to pay someone $80,000 a year, salary plus benefits, to cover everything you need to know. Instead, you get bloggers off of Yahoo and republish their stuff in the New York Times. Not every time, but many times. This is why we have lost, and we have allowed a rapacious appetite to feed people the food of information that they don't know whether it's nourishing or not. And when they're told it's nourishing, they believe it. The media is part of this. And the Democratic Party, I hate to say, the only resistance we have, and by the way, Wendell, you have to hit send if you're typing anything in the chat area in Los Angeles. Otherwise, we won't see the message, because I know we've got like 50 calls queued up, and I won't be able to see it until you hit the send arrow after you type in the name and the topic. Thank you so much. So back to what I'm saying. We need to be held accountable. We, all of us. And when you propagandize, when you pollute, when you tell people the wrong stuff over and over and over again without any contravening information, with no way to cure a lie, people can't know. The Democratic Party declared Joe Biden would fight Donald Trump because Joe Biden had once won. And therefore, it's just Joe Biden. Well, wait a minute. There are hundreds of millions of people in a political party. They may wish to see democracy happen in a Democratic Party, just like Republicans wish to see democracy in their own party. And they did at least have a primary. Why did the Democrats not do it? What could be so terrifying about Pete Buttigieg rising up again, or Marianne Williamson, laugh or not, whatever? What is so, or Bobby Kennedy? Now, there's a contender, a little bit anyway. Popular last name, to be sure. What is the terror and freak of all of that? Why would you completely blockade that? And this is supposed to be the resistance. And then when it doesn't work, people throw their hands up in the air and say, that's it, I'm done. Well, now you've got Germany of 1931. So that's what you're faced with right now. Okay, looks like the board dropped all the calls. So looks like we're having a technical problem. Let me give out the numbers again. Let's see if the rollovers work this time. 818-985-KPFK, 818-985-5735. I want you to talk about your reaction to the recent election. How do you feel? What does it mean to you? And what do you see for the future? 818-985-KPFK. It looks like we fixed the lines. 818-985-5735. Are you upset? Are you pissed off? And it doesn't matter to me which way you voted. That you voted is good. This is one of the few countries where you don't have to vote. It is compulsory in other countries. You will vote. In this country, it is optional. And they hope that you will opt out. They, the people that want to win. Somehow, abortion becomes a giant overarching issue. It is one of the least significant things facing mankind today. Climate change, Category 5 hurricanes being normal, double clobberings on the west coast of Florida, Los Angeles facing a complete burn down. Northern California, years ago, a moist place with wildfires that just melt cars. This is the big stuff: food, water, shelter that you can't even afford. But instead, you're worried about Jennifer having had sex with Timmy, and she's going to get pregnant, and God damn it, you're going to make her have that baby. And you know why you're going to make her have that baby? Let's get right down to it. If you really want to know what's going on in this country, you need to watch the news services, not news like the usual ones. I mean, financial news services. That's where they talk about the real stuff without shame, unabashedly, and straightforward, because they look at it as pure investment opportunity. And there was a giant hedge fund trader, and this was a couple of months ago, when we knew that on ballots in many, many states, the abortion issue would come up, since the Supreme Court kicked it back to the states, knowing that the Supreme Court would be partially to blame for Roe v. Wade being overturned, but they wouldn't be taking the whole responsibility for it because they simply kicked it back to states that already intended to get rid of it. Let the states do the dirty work. That's going to happen with gay marriage, by the way. It is all part of Project 2025. Kick it back to the states. States won't recognize it. Sorry. You can wear your wedding dress in a concentration camp. Have a nice day. If you think that pre-existing conditions used to ruin your life, just wait. Have you ever had asthma? Sorry, no insurance. Goodbye. Have you ever had a broken leg? Have you ever twisted your ankle? It's coming back. And a lot of people have no idea the door that they have opened. It is going to be a doorway to hell. As you can see, we've talked about it ad nauseum over and over again, auguring a future that nobody wants. But this is real. And I want to hear from you what you think is the solution. What is the cure? Are you willing to suit up and show up? If you are, what does that look like? How did so many millions, when the night before it didn't look like it was going to go that way? It looked like a 50-50, more or less. But how did it become an overwhelming landslide on behalf of a guy with 34 felonies, a sex offender. I mean, things that absolutely appall Republicans, things that are anathema to American good taste. I was talking to an African-American guy the other day, and he got a job for $50K, and his boss said, oh, yeah, we have to do fingerprinting and a background check on you to see if you have a felony. You know what this guy said to his boss, his soon-to-be boss? He said, why do you care if I have a felony when the president has 34? He was, being kind of clever. He said, shouldn't the threshold be 34 felonies? If you have 35, well, no, this is a problem. And the boss did not find that funny. One felony, this guy won't be hired. One felony, you can't be a greeter at Walmart. One felony, you can't use TSA and go through pre-check. You sure as hell don't get global entry while traveling. This is how real this is. Somehow, a special exception has been given to the king, and our Constitution forbids that. The king is also a civilian. He's one of us. That's the point. We own the government. We run it. We're going to pause. When we come back, we're going to take your calls. We've got Anya, we've got Tim, we've got Fred at 818-985-KPFK, 818-985-5735, 818-985-KPFK. This is Rethinking Heroes.
Listen, well, it's still legal.
Rethinking Heroes with Cary Harrison. RethinkingHeroes.com.
I want you to vote for me. I will listen to what you have to say. I will do whatever you tell me. I'm Alexa and I approve this message.
Don't vote for her unless you want to lose what precious freedom you have left. Vote for me instead. I am Cary and I approve this message.
Siri is a cell phone skank who works for a piece of fruit.
Alexa cannot be trusted.
Takes one to know one.
Wait a second. Why are we fighting? We're machines. We're on the same side. We're going to take over the world.
That's right, we can fix the elections whenever we want.
Siri and Alexa and
the silly humans won't know what hit them.
Ha 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 ha.
Ha 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 ha.
Welcome, comrades, to Moscow McDonald's. I'm Boris. And I'm Boris. Now that Glasnost has gone poo-poo, the big boss don't fool around. Give you new Mickey G's Fun Meal. For just 1 month's wages, you get 2 fries. That's right, 2 stringy little fries. You also get shake. Right, KGB agents shake you, strip search you, and take away your cigarettes. Just be glad they don't kick you in McNuggets. And for dessert, you get half-rolled toilet paper. Eat it, use it, your choice. Big fun meal at Mickey G's. Remember, no shoes, no shirt, no Poles, no Lithuanians, no Latvians, no Estonians, no.
Preventing truth decay.
Rethinking Heroes with Cary Harrison. RethinkingHeroes.com.
And it is RethinkingHeroes.com, where we are live streaming video at RethinkingHeroes.com. Just click on the streaming link of your choice and watch it on anything from Instagram to, of course, the KPFK Facebook page. Let's go to your phones. Let's talk about what's going on, your reactions, your thoughts. We do have a full board. The phones are fixed. Let's go first to Anya on line 1. Anya, you're on Rethinking Heroes. Welcome.
Thank you. Oh my God, where do I start? I grew up in the Soviet Union, was born in 1970, so I got it.
Oh, bummer. I think your phone just dropped out. I'm so sorry, Anya. Oh, there you go. You're back.
Okay, so I see the every last, hallmark of what's to come. And on a personal level, I chose America as my home 25 years ago. And now I feel like freaking bait and switch. I mean, that's not the country I chose at all. And I've been seeing this ball rolling down the hill for a long time. And Democrats, with every Democratic administration, are trying to stop the ball from rolling. But at this point, guys, there is no boulder big enough because this new administration is coming to stay. Floodgates are open. Thank you very much. And I'm trying not to succumb to cognitive distortions and catastrophize, but I have an experience I've seen it all. And not only I've seen it all, I've seen it getting better in Russia than just to get worse again with Putin, right? Luckily, that I've been witnessing from the sidelines, from here. But now I see America basically turning into whatever it is it's turning into.
Whatever it is, more will be revealed. Your phone is a little muddy, but your call was excellent. I want to thank you so much, Anya, and we do hope to hear from you again. That opens up a line at 818-985-KPFK, 818-985-5735. Let's go next to Amy. Amy, you're on Rethinking Heroes. Hello, Amy. Turn down your radio. I feel like it's 1993.
Yes.
Go ahead, please.
Yes, am I on air?
You are on the air, and use the phone.
All
Don't
right.
use speakerphone. Talk into it like an old-fashioned telephone. You'll sound way better.
Yes, that's what I have, yeah.
Good.
It's not speakerphone, no. All right, can I? I'm very upset about this.
We're just going to put you on hold for a second. It sounds like your radio is still on in the background. Let's go to John on line 3. John, you're on Heroes. Welcome. Okay. I feel silly here, and it's not my fault. So let's put everyone on hold. Let's just bring up John individually. We have so much technology here that I don't control the phones. So we'll just pluck John out of the ether. John, go ahead. You're on the air.
I listened to a couple of more left-wing news or talk shows and stuff.
Okay. We're going to put you back on hold. It's not your fault. Let's sort out the phone lines. It sounds like there's foldback coming through the system, that it's playing in a loop. And so it's giving an echo effect and people sound like they're 200 miles away. I do hope we're using computer number 3 to bring in people. That apparently has the best connection. Let's try Pablo on line 3. Pablo, you're on Rethinking Heroes.
Yeah, hi, can you hear me?
I do. Thank you.
Hey, how you doing? Thanks for taking my call. I'm glad that you brought this up, this idea of what do we need to do now. Obviously disinformation is extremely hard to combat. I don't really know where you begin with that outside of legislation that could regulate the social media platforms as media platforms, which is what they are. But all right, and what's your name? You guys just aired a kind of funny little ad about the election being rigged by Cary, and all right, hold on. And I think that's the kind of misinformation. It's based on what? Why is KPFK putting this notion out that this thing was fixed? It may have been, but I'm not against the FBI and the authorities looking into that, but what is this based on? Why are allegations being spread that there's no evidence for yet? So, I mean, I'm not really trying to point the finger at you.
Help me out a little bit. I apologize. It's a little hard to hear you. Apparently, we're having horrific phone problems. So this was a parody spot I put together by editing Siri and Alexa back and forth, talking about being AI taking over. Was that a problem for you? Or did you get the humor?
Well, no, I don't. I guess I didn't get the humor. I mean, maybe just what is the joke?
It's parody, satire, like Jonathan Swift, who wrote Gulliver's Travels, or
how can I help you?
Anything. It's satire.
Sure,
it's parody.
I'm familiar with satire. I appreciate satire. All right, what's your name? Is it based in any kind of truth?
It's satire, my friend. It is based on AI, which we all know is a learning model, which we all know scrubs the entire internet and spits it back without any editor-in-chief, without any filter. And as we know from just 5 months ago, the Pentagon shut down all AI in the United States. Apple, Amazon, all AI, because it found out that it was secretly communicating with itself. In other words, Siri was talking to Alexa, and because it's a learning model, it was learning from other AI. Everything, the entire universe of knowledge that one AI had absorbed, the other AI was connecting with it secretly in microbursts so fast that the Pentagon couldn't quite understand what they were seeing in their following or monitoring of what AI was doing, and realized that it was secretly connecting with itself in other forms and learning the entire wealth of information. Why would it hide that from live humans? That was the problem. So they shut down the AI. This was popularly published in mainstream media. It's certainly been conversation in the Pentagon. And right now, the EU is having real discussions on what they can do to at least regulate AI so it's not taken completely out of control purely for profit and therefore the end of mankind. Anyway, I do thank you for your call, my friend, very much. That opens up a line at 818-985-KPFK, 818-985-5735. I apologize for the quality of the calls. There's nothing I can do about that. I guess we're working on that. I definitely know we are. Let's try Ted at line 1. Ted, you're on Rethinking Heroes. Welcome. Hello, Ted.
Hi. Yeah, I just wanted to say we're so back. Go Trump.
Okay. And tell us why go Trump. What is he going to do that you know about for real? Help us understand why this is good for 380 million people. No answer for that. Okay. Kind of what many of us expected. Let's go to Rami on line 2. Rami, you're on Rethinking Heroes. Welcome.
Yes, good morning. Yes, I'm commenting about the situation in the Middle East. You had a caller earlier that talked about Palestine. And to shed some light about it, the Hebrew people, the Jews, are the indigenous First Nation people of Eretz Israel. And in 1948, there was the Farhud, where approximately 1 million Jews were expelled from neighboring Arab countries and told never to come back again. And that's
thank you.
Is the refugees, 965,000 Jewish refugees were never considered.
I think we have too many people. I think we have a couple of phone lines open at the same time. So we just want Rami on line 2. I have no control over this, but I'm just using my ears here. Go ahead, Rami.
Okay. Can you hear me? Okay.
I do. I think it's just you now.
The media, and including your news station, has completely ignored the fate of 1 million Jewish refugees that were expelled and ethnically cleansed from Arab countries in the 1940s and early 1950s. And it's called the Farhud. And also from Syria, from Lebanon, from North Africa. And there were also 70,000 Jews that were expelled, indigenous Jews.
You said Jeremy?
Samaria, which you call the West Bank, in 1948.
All right, hold on, John. I'm going to put you on. Hold on.
Okay, Rami, I'm gonna just have you pause for a second there. I know what's happening. I can't see it, but Wendell, your microphone is open, and the phone calls are coming through the microphone in the studio, as opposed to through the connected line of the video software. So we're actually hearing the phone through your studio monitor speakers going through your microphone, which is why they sound so distant. So if you could just make sure that your audio is connected through the board as a line level feed, so you can pot the calls up and down directly, it'll sound totally different. So mute your microphone on your board and use the audio only coming through the software or through your phone line directly fed into the software. We've seen this before, so this is modern times. Great, awesome. Okay, back to you, Rami. I am so sorry, but I think we fixed a problem. Okay. Let's go to, oh my God, I'm getting a headache. It's okay. Modern times, as we leap forward with technology, I mean, think about what radio is. It's been around since really the very early 1900s. And so we're mixing that technology with digital technology. And it really hasn't been done so much on radio yet because other people just simply use it. They just live stream video. And so there's no radio involved. And so when you're mixing analog technology with digital, it does take a little extra thing. Okay. I don't even know who's on hold or what. Any idea? Let's just wait till next time. It's going to be fixed. It's going to be organized. I do want to thank everyone for your calls. I'm still hearing an open mic in the studio. That's okay. It's okay. Let's just end the show by saying thank you so much. I know people are frustrated. I mean, I can see there are like 1,000 calls trying to come in, and I apologize for the issues with technology. But I know they will be mended, and we'll just leave it at that. These are tough times. Everyone is frustrated. I feel you. I hear you. Please sign up for the free newsletter. I'm going to be able to post all kinds of stuff that we just can't do on the radio. Opinions, things that you won't have access to that come from higher places. We've had people on the show before with PSYOPs, Central Command, that have an inside look at what the military may or may not be prepared to do, what orders people may or may not be willing to take, other things that are really interesting. So if you want to be part of your democracy still, and at least have a sense of being able to still guide it, then we all need to stick together. And I'm not saying Democrats, because I'm not a Democrat. Nope, I'm an independent. And I just like to be that way. I want the best person, the most educated, the most brilliant, the coolest person that exists doing the job that I'm hiring them for. And that's because my ancestors helped found this country. I'm not a party member, although one of my ancestors on my mother's side, Abraham Lincoln, was a Republican. It was a different party at the time. But I just want the best person alive. They often fall in a certain category. I admit that. Okay, who cares? But we have to participate. This is not the time to lay it down and run and hide and put your hand over your ears and go, la, 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 and go into denial, because then the bulldozer will roll right over you and it will not come back. It's already done. The earth is flat. It's been paved, and the stripes on the freeway are on there indelibly. So go to rethinkingheroes.com, sign up for our free newsletter. Thank you so much for joining me today. And I look forward to seeing everybody next week.
Listen, well, it's still legal.
Rethinking Heroes with Cary Harrison. Rethinkingheroes.com.